And hello. Sorry for the late start, guys. It's been kind of a, one little technical difficulty after another here for about a half an hour or so. But welcome to Diane Writes. This is my writing stream where I answer writing questions and I do word sprints with people. I don't know who's all here yet, or even if anybody is here at the moment, but I hope that I'll see you guys in a minute. Yeah, oh, I have 5 viewers. Okay, cool. Oh, hello. Hello. Yeah, how do you, yeah, Quiller and Beyond. Is that right? I know you. You're one of my World Anvil buddies, right? Nice to see you. Yes. You're the happy sunshine. Yes. Yes, he has a happy sunshine face icon, and it's pretty cool. So, the Megacorpolis guy. Yes, I love your world, by the way. Feel free to drop the link in the chat. I think people really should check it out. This is how, this is an excellent cyberpunk setting, right? Where, I'm just, it's got a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor because he points out, he does what cyberpunk is supposed to do. He points out a lot of the, bullshit in our own culture and society. It's pretty amazing. So definitely check out his link. It's really awesome. I'm sorry my voice is a little rough today. I have been dealing with a cold or something. Messarian? Would that be how I pronounce it? Hello, welcome. Yes, capitalism taken to its ridiculous extreme. You know what the scary thing is, though, is that every year it seems like this extreme is a little less extreme. You know what I mean? Like, people keep getting close. Okay, I'm not going to get on that subject, but it worries me. So, yeah. Anyway, my voice is a little rough today. I've got, I don't know. I don't know if it's a bit of a cold or a bit of an allergy thing, and it's been going on now for a couple of days. So, yeah. I've been doing the responsible thing and staying home. So, oh, hey, Miss Arian says, I'm a new writer. Started Sunday. Congratulations. Welcome to the madness. Yeah, this is, it's quite the road. I hope that you enjoy it. I hope that you get stuff out of the stream. Feel free to ask questions. That's what we're here for. And, have fun. Quillian Beyond says, get well soon. Or, thank you. Yeah. Oh, well, here's hoping, right? Everyone, when you get a cold these days, obviously everyone's immediately like, I don't know about this. And this one's kind of a weird one, too. It hasn't been getting worse, right? It's just been a little roughness and some phlegm and some sinus stuff and a bit of a sore throat, right? And I feel like I have a bit of an elevated temperature, right? And but it's not getting any worse, but it's not getting any better either, right? So, Messian? Am I pronouncing that right? I feel very weird. Been liking it so far. Posted my first 6,000 words in the Writers Network Discord for suggestions. I will definitely go. Mesk? All right. Gotcha. All right. I will check that out as soon as I'm done here. Because I love encouraging new writers. I think that's fantastic that you've connected to the Twitch Writers Network already. They're an amazingly supportive group. I discovered them when I did my first writing stream because I put the writing tag in and they poured in like masses, which is awesome. So, and I really appreciate the support. Speaking of which, I am 8 subscribers, or not subscribers, 8 followers. Subscribing is different. This is not YouTube, this is Twitch. Okay, I am 8 followers away from affiliate, right? So that's just, I'm pretty excited about that. Let's see how that goes. Oh, now I am 7 followers away. 6. Thanks, guys. Awesome. Right on. Yeah, thanks. Mesk, and thanks Quillian Beyond. Quillian. Yeah. Yay! Thanks, guys. That's great. And I've done everything else that I'm supposed to do so far. So, and I'm excited about that because this is pretty new. All right. So, if you have writing questions, just type question and your question. Or actually, don't even bother typing question because I read all the comments and I don't have enough viewers yet that I'm going to lose anything. So, just feel free to type your question or your comment or whatever, and I'll do my best to address them. We got into some great discussions last time. I just finished working on the timestamps for the last video finally because I was way behind deadline, and I admit I got a little distracted by what's going on politically. And, you know, sometimes you feel like there's a time when there's more important things, and this was one of those times where I felt like there was more important things. So I spent some time on that, right? And I am behind on things. I'm looking for some music to put on in the background here, and I thought that this bustling port town setting would have some cool music, but I don't see any. Oh, no, that's just sound effects. We don't want that. Okay, let's see here. Yeah. I've got a bunch of sets of things from... Oh, let's try this. Music for Enormous Spaces. It's actually a science fiction setup, but it might work. Oh, that's pretty. I like that. Okay, we're going to run with that for now. Yeah, nice. Okay. All right. So, since there are currently no questions, I guess I'll just get into a sprint, shall I? And once again, I forgot my phone. This is going to be a tradition. It's not going to be the writing stream unless I forgot my phone. Okay, 1 second. I'll be right back. It'll only take me like a second. All right, I'm back. Okay, here. Tangled cords. I really got to get a set of wireless headphones, I think. All right. So then, let's see if I can make the screen capture this properly today. I sure as hell couldn't last time, I noticed. All right, here. That is what we want. All right, and there we go. That's interesting. I seem to have a different size window on this today. 6 followers, eh? Says Quillian. Or Quillian. Yeah, I'm overthinking that. But, yeah. Yeah, 6 followers short. That's all. Because you need 50, apparently. I like this music. I'm going to keep with this. Okay. So what I'm doing is I am setting up my phone for a timer. People seem to be really in kind of a writing mood. I normally start with like, you know, a really short sprint, but let's start with a 15-minute one today, shall we? Get right into it. All right, there we are. Okay, and let's begin. Oh, hey, wait, I'm going to stop that for a sec. Okay. I've realized that Mesk might not understand how a word sprint works, right? Because they're a new writer. So, excuse me, how it works is that we set a timer, and then for that period of time, we write as many words as we possibly can, right? We try not to over edit or, delete a bunch of things and rethink, which I'm terrible at, but we try not to. And at the end of the sprint, we compare, if we want to, it's optional, our word count. And my thought is, some people respond to friendly competition, others like, personal encouragement. It's about your personal best. So it doesn't really matter what you actually get as long as you're competing with yourself, right? And I like to be, I like to encourage people when they kick my ass, which actually isn't that hard because I'm kind of slow sometimes, but, it's fun. So that's what we do. So I'm going to, this is one of those music settings with pauses. Oh, it doesn't look to be too long. Okay. All right, so now we're going to start. I'm touching the wrong thing. All right. And begin. Lillian, thanks for the follow. Welcome. We're 5 minutes into a writing sprint that is going to last for another 10 or so. All right. And that is time. Well, let's see how I did. Long period of thinking about what was next because I started a new section here, a new scene. There we are. Oh, it's not bad. 282 words for me. Dillian says, I'm drawing happy little mountains as you sprint. Cool. You're doing mapping. How nice. I like drawing mountains and stuff too. So how'd everybody else do if they'd care to share? That's actually pretty good for me in 15 minutes. I'm picking up as I get back into manuscript writing. I haven't worked on it in a while because I've been concentrating on World Anvil and disappearing down my navel and putting my worlds up and all the supplementary material for it. And I really love it. I think it's a lot of fun. But if I never get the damn book written, then it ain't gonna matter, is it? Right? So, gotta write the book. Quillian doesn't want to comment? No, okay, that's fine. Mesk doesn't want to either. That's okay. You know, honestly, any words you get are words, and that's good because they're words you didn't have before, right? So, if you didn't do as well, that's okay. This will be the first time on one of these sprints that I've done since I started doing this writing stream that I actually will have been the top scorer then in any sprint. I'm usually kind of in the middle or at the end even, especially when I run into kind of personal roadblocks. So does anybody have any questions or comments then? Things they want to talk about in terms of writing? If not, having just done the timestamps on my previous stream, I could talk about some other things that I was thinking about after the fact, and I was like, oh, I should have said that, and I should have said that. So I could do that. Well, okay, I'm just going to start into that then. And again, if anybody has any questions or comments, just type them in the chat. I'm paying attention. I will see it and I will answer. We were talking about the process of self-editing in the last stream. And I realized that because it was a very active chat at the time, that I had not really expounded on things that probably would be really useful advice for people. So if you're running your edit for the first time, I did say transfer it to a different medium and look at it there, or better yet, read it out loud. And then you realize what it sounds like, and you can, you know, you learn things that way that you didn't see because you've been looking at your manuscript consistently, and you know, you eventually you just start to blank on things. You know how it goes, so you don't really thoroughly read what you've written, right? So that's a way to handle it. But okay, how to do the process is something that I don't think that I discussed, right? So when you're doing your first pass through your manuscript, like I usually edit a little bit as I go. Not everybody does that. I'm not doing that this time with these streams, right? I will eventually go back and do that, but the point of these streams is to force myself to do the actual writing. I'm treating it a bit like a limited window NaNoWriMo, and I'm concentrating on getting the words on the screen on the paper. I will deal with the preliminary stuff after the fact. So the first thing I do once I have done the manuscript, once I have typed the end, right? Okay, I leave it for about a week and I don't touch it. At least. I can't control myself more than a week. Some people say leave it for a month, and they're probably wiser than me, but I can't. So I leave it for a week, maybe two, and then I come back to it. And then when I do the first read, I just kind of read it for flow, right? I will correct any obvious mistakes that stand out to me and fill in blanks that I forgot to fill in. Like, for example, sometimes when I can't think of the scene and I'm trying to write, like, I know there needs to be a battle, right? And I know how it's going to end, but I don't know how it's going to proceed. And that happens a lot, actually, because I want to make sure that if you know anything about military maneuvers and strategy, you will be able to read my stuff and go, okay, yeah, that's feasible, right? I'm not an expert, but I want to sound enough like I know what I'm talking about that it will not be distracting to somebody who actually does know what they're talking about, right? So I try to make it convincing. So I have to research, and when I'm just pouring out my raw manuscript, of course, you don't have time for that, right? So I fix that stuff, right? The big edits, right? I read it through for that, okay? Then the second time, I read it through for pacing, right? And what I'm trying to do is get a feel for how does it flow, right? Is it, is there areas that slow it down? Are there areas that are like unnecessary, right? Can I find a better way to deal with this exposition? Stuff like that, right? Then on the third pass, I start to fine tune, right? I look for things like, okay, can I phrase that better, right? Because, is that really the word I wanted, right? Is, like, do I like this outcome? Do I need a different transfer scene? So, fine tuning the details. Theoretically, when I'm done with that, oh yeah, and then the fourth pass, I read it for time, right? Because I want things to proceed according to a sequence of events, especially with this particular series. I have to be aware of exactly how much time has passed. This is not something I am good at, right? I believe that I have dyscalculia. I don't have an official diagnosis because I was one of those kids who was good at coping, right? And sometimes I was way ahead in the reading curve, so I ended up doing, honors and extra programs and stuff like that. But I was never that exceptional with numbers, but I was smart enough that I was able to sort of cope. And in a way, people kind of went, "Oh well, she's one of the smart kids, right?" So they never really looked hard into the fact that I was struggling. And I didn't even realize how badly I was struggling until the senior grades in high school, where I found I could not do trigonometry. I understood how it worked, right? Or logarithms, right? Theoretically, I understood how it worked, right? As far as I knew, I was doing everything right, and I would still get it all wrong. I barely passed, right? And by then, it's too late, right? So, what I now think is that I'm reversing the numbers, and that is why I've had trouble with that. Right? But anyway, I don't know, tangent. But so my sense of time is shit. It's shit in real life, and it's shit in my books. So I really have to read that closely to make sure that, okay, yes, stuff like babies are born in the course of this novel, right? And I have to make sure there's actually been 9 months between the time I said, hey, I'm pregnant, and, the time the baby's born, right? Are these too many years to have passed? Like, stuff like that, right? So I check for time. I'm very, and I guess while I'm doing that, I also try for a sense of place. I find that when I'm writing action scenes, I often lose some of the description that I'm pretty good with in other areas. Because, I'm like, I'm feeling the pace of the scene and I'm trying to get that out on paper. So sometimes I realize I have not been clear enough and I try to fix stuff like that. Okay, when I finish that edit, then it is ready for alpha readers, right? And I generally run it by my hubby and my partner, and I'm like, okay, what do you think? Right? And, you know, they'll encourage me or point out flaws, right? And then after that, it's ready for the beta readers. And then I take their advice. And then after that, it's ready for professional edit. So there's my process about editing, right? The point is, yeah, it's about the time where it goes to alpha readers that I change the medium, right? And that's usually when I first read it out loud. This is something I like to do, is read it out loud to the people that I live with or my friends, right? Because then I kill two birds with one stone. They get to hear it and point out things that I need to fix, and I get to hear it and point out things that I need to fix. So that's what I do. And then once it's at the beta read stage, it also goes to my patrons as live readings, which I'll do either on video like this, or I will, you know, if their patron level isn't quite high enough for that, because I think I do that at $10 a month or something, or $5, one of the two. Then at the $3 a month, they get an audio file of it, and everybody, you know, can listen to the audio file, you know, if they're higher level patron than that. Diane says, leaving something for a week and then going back to it is also a nice thing to do with maps, and I assume it works with other forms of art as well. That's cool. I guess it depends on the form of art, right? Because, like, do you use digital software for your mapping? Or do you, like, do it by hand? Right? Because sometimes when you're doing it by hand, then it's done and you can't do it, right? Like, you know, if there's something you really want to fix, you know, then you can't. I find that, okay, my hubby likes to say to me, stop fucking with it, right? Because I will fiddle with like a piece of art until I have done something to screw it up, because it's never perfect. I do it in Photoshop with a pen and tablet. See, if that's great. If digital is so much better, isn't it, for everything? Because then you can actually go back and fix it. I do that with digital art, right? Like, I have, even 10 years after I've created a picture, gone back and gone, oh, I know now how to do something else with the Photoshop, so I will fix that. Not that I think of myself as an artist per se, right? I'm trying to, but I'm, you know, not as confident about it as I am about my writing. So that's something I'm working on. It's cool that you can do that. It's great. Delian says, if only real life had layers and undo. Amen. That would be awesome. Layers are so magic, aren't they? You can screw things and move things around, and then if you change your mind, you just, okay, I don't know, would it look better without this? Well, I'll just make that layer invisible and see what that looks like, and yeah, actually that looks good. And then you can make different versions. Awesome. I know, right? I discovered that when I was doing the map for Peridot, which I was doing for the geography challenge at World Anvil. So it's lots of fun. Bobicus says, hello, Bobicus. Nice of you to join me. Says, ooh, world building. Yes, world building is the greatest. I like mapping. I like visualizing how my world lays out. It's fun. It may or may not ever be relevant to other people, but it's relevant to me. So that's fun. And if I can get that, then I can get a picture and I can make the continuity better. Yeah. So again, if anybody has any questions, comments, things they'd like to discuss, is there a topic? Mug. My mug? Yes. Did I talk to you about this before? I don't know if you were in the last stream. This is my very dirty, which has to be clean now, I see. I'm almost embarrassed to have that on the stream. Okay, my very dirty Lucky Coffee mug. This was a gift for my 10th birthday, which was more than 35 years ago. And it has survived several moves, 3 relationships. It was thrown against a door. It was dropped from a height. It's like the lucky mug that somehow, knock on wood here, has made itself like it's just well made, right? So I don't know why it turned out that way, but I love it. It is a Smurfy old mug. Yeah, Delian says hi to Q. Quillian. Yeah, Quillian says, "Oh wow, that's a Smurfy old mug. All hail the lucky mug." Yes, absolutely. Babika says my preferred style is much drier and more clinical than the people who review my work prefer. That's interesting. Tell me more. What do you mean by that? I would love to know more. And Quillian says hi back to Dillian. Delian. I don't know. Dillian? Dalian? Delian? I see it in the chat all the time on the Discord, but okay, Bobicus says he has a paragraph that serves as an example. Sure, I'd be happy to look at it. Feel free to throw it in the chat. Let's check it out. And I'll read it. So I think I'm now 5 followers away from affiliate, by the way. So thank you, Dillian, for following. That's awesome. I appreciate it. I keep my visits brief. The joys of Rumash are great, but I can't stomach the confines of a town or city for too long. A constitutional defect. That's the style I prefer. I like that. I like that a lot. That's very, you know, I see what you mean by, you know, kind of technical. But that's okay, right? Like, actually, oh, okay. And then comparison. I keep my visits brief. The joys of Ramash are great. But folks in town are strange to me. Their gazes scratch at the stillness of my soul and fill me with agitation. Only the security of isolation grants me succor. Uh, you know what? Seriously, I think stick with your style, right? Especially if you're an action. I don't even, I should know what you write by now, but do you think I do? I just kind of listen to you babble on your streams, so I'm like not really, I get involved in the discussion and I'm not even aware of exactly what you write, but it's if your writing is action oriented, your style is actually better. Yeah, I thought so. Okay, I thought it was fantasy. Babakis says fantasy mostly. See, there's different ways to approach fantasy, right? I mean, okay, up on my soapbox. Okay, fantasy is way too broad a genre to be typecast into anything, in my opinion. Excuse me. Right? People think that it's all Tolkien. It's definitely not, right? There's so many ways to approach it. And one of the ways to approach it is as an action tale that happens to have some fantasy in it. And if you approach it like that, it's very readable, right? Very popular writers write like that. Like James Patterson writes like that. His style's very, you know, it's brief, it's to the point, right? Um, I would almost call the second example a bit purple, right? And I think that professionally, you would probably do better with the first overall, right? Like, and now granted, I can be prone to somewhat purple prose, right? Because my style does tend to lean more towards your second example. But I've been actually working on that. So I don't know. Maybe you should try a different group of beta readers, people who read more of that style of fiction, you know? Um, yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with what you're doing, especially if there's a lot of action and stuff going on, right? If it's about personal, if the character is very introspective, then people might want to hear more about description and whatnot. right? But if it's more about the events, then I think you're doing fine. Yeah, he is not. Yeah, okay. Well, then I say keep doing what you're doing, right? Don't let this is the thing. Writing often so much is about personal preference, isn't it? Right? People read different things, and a lot of it's very subjective. So it's just, I don't think people. I think you're writing a different style than what people are thinking you're writing, is what I think, and there's nothing wrong with that. I will definitely have a look at some of the stuff you're working on, specifically in your streams, because I read a wide variety of stuff, right? I read everything from thrillers to romance novels to, literary fiction. I prefer stuff that crosses over the fantastical, right? But there's a lot in that range, and there's no reason why you can't approach it that way. If it's, if it's an action story and he's an action hero, then you don't need a lot of description of the landscape. He's not paying attention to that kind of shit, right? It's not in his head. He's here to do a job. He's going to do his thing, right? Yeah. Babaka says, I'm going to continue editing for the people who review me just to stretch my style, but that's good to hear. Cool. Can't hurt to yeah, stretch out, broaden your horizons. I agree with that, right? But yeah, don't you know trust your gut, right? Trust your gut. You're the writer, right? And I was talking about how important editing is and a good editor is on the last stream, and I really believe that. And I think a lot of writers are very resistant to the changes of their editors when they shouldn't be. But there is a point where you have a gut feeling and you're right because it's your work. The editor may not understand what you're trying to accomplish, right? So they may not get it. Very good. I've worked with some very good editors who did not get what I was trying to do, right? You got to trust your gut. Be open-minded to the changes that they suggest, and don't immediately be defensive. Writers, we love our babies and we try, we always are. That's always my first reaction, but and then rethink it, right? But if you've got this gut resistance to it and you just know it's wrong, don't do it, right? Do your thing. And if you are working with a critique group or an editor that isn't understanding that, find a different one, right? There is a wonderful group of people who are amazing critique people here in town, a local writers group. And they're good writers, and one of them is a professional editor, and they're awesome. But often, they're really great with my short fiction, right? But they're often not very good with my longer fiction because they don't really understand, they don't read the same things that I do in that department, a lot of them, and they don't understand what I'm trying to do. So I have to find a different group for that. And that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. All right. Yeah, any further comments or questions at this point? It's a real quiet little stream today. I'm not surprised. People are distracted. There's a lot of reasons to be distracted right now. And that's okay. But that's, that what that means is I'll end up getting more writing done, right? Which is good. All right. You guys want to do another sprint then? Let's see here. Let's do. Okay. So I'm thinking 20 minutes at this point. Do you figure? Or do you want to do a long one? Short, just got here. 20 minutes too long? We could do another 15. I'm fine with that. 20 minutes works. Okay. All right. And let's begin. Hello, Laura Bones. Thanks for the follow. Welcome. We have about 11 minutes left in the sprint. Rawr. Cool, thanks. that's 20 minutes. Well, I feel really good about what I was doing there. I feel like I'm in a zone. I know where I'm going. I'm starting to write a part of the story that I've been looking forward to writing for some time. Oh wow, did I get that far? Good for me. Okay. All right, that's really good. So I did 398 words. I'm very proud of myself. That's one of my best yet. So, yay! Haha, 86 words, says Bobicus. That's 86 words you did not have before, right? So, awesome. Good for you. And reading back here, yes, Laura Bones joined us. Thank you for joining me. That's awesome. And thank you for following. I really appreciate it. I'm just a couple of follows shy of affiliate now, and I really appreciate that. Yep. Laura Bones says, super concentraty face. Yeah, you know what? It's funny because I've been running these streams back, right? Because I do, when I upload them to YouTube, I do timestamps about when things start and end. You know, I figure some people are here for the AMA, right? And some people are here for the sprints, right? And if you just want to do the sprints, maybe you just want to, you know, go to that timestamp and do it. So I have to actually watch them. And I think it's very funny to watch myself writing because, of course, I'm not thinking about what my face is doing while I am writing. I'm just doing it. And I do a lot of I've noticed, and there's a reason why I have these lines, and it's not because I'm an angry person, it's because I think. But I have, like, resting bitch face, I guess. And I think it's funny, right? Quillian does a happy, smiley, laughy face and says, the call to arms has been answered, so thank you for asking people to come and follow. I really appreciate that. That's awesome. And Laura Bones says, indeed, so thank you for the support. That's great. 200 Hero says, totally is not just sneaking in right now after a very busy day. Hello, it's good to see you. I was wondering where you were. I was a bit worried about you. I'm glad you could make it, and it's really okay that it's not like right at the beginning of the stream. That's fine. If life happens. I was like 10 minutes late starting anyway, so yeah, it's cool. And I will therefore run 10 minutes over because, you know, it's not fair if you're here for the stream if I, you know, don't give you 3 hours of my time. That's what I said I'm going to do, so that's what we're going to do. Tyranid Hero says, I went and voted in my state primary and ran errands. Good for you. I can see why you were a little late because, you know, I'm sure the voting lines are horrific. Thank you for doing that. I wish you the best of luck. I hope that things turn out the way that you want them to, and, you know, thank you for going to vote. I realize that people are making it very difficult right now, and I appreciate that you are, you know, taking that on. It's important. It's never been more important, I think. Yeah. All right, well, I'm about a little bit more than halfway through the program, I think. And I need to take a 5-minute bio break. So I'm going to do that. Oh, did I not cover the label? Yes. He thinks I should wait and get, like, you know, a sponsorship deal. Like these guys are ever going to give me a dime for anything. I mean, come on, right? But, well, hey, you never know. Maybe if I'm a New York Times bestseller someday, right? You never know. Okay, so I'm going to take a 5-minute break, and then I'll be right back. As usual, if you have questions, comments, things you want to discuss that are in any way related to writing or world building, feel free to put them in the chat. I am not yet requiring people to type question in all capitals because the chat's just not that busy yet, and I don't need that because, you know, I'll just keep up with what you're doing. Now, as a movie nerd, you can always see the sponsors because they have the labels out. Says Dreaded Hero. Oh, you mean I should, like, display the label? Haha. No? Yeah, okay. Okay, I'll see you in a couple minutes. Thanks for sticking with me, guys. All right, I am back. Thanks for your patience. Well, people are here to write today, it looks like, eh? No questions in the chat while I was gone. Good night, Q. Thanks for joining me, and thanks for, asking people to come follow. That's really great. I really appreciate it. Sleep well. All right. If there are no comments or questions about writing at this time, then we can dig into another sprint. I certainly don't mind. I feel like I'm on a roll today. I'm having a good time, so that's really cool. But hey, I'm here to chat too, so whatever you guys want to do. Fresh coffee. And by the way, if anybody can tell me, right? Okay, so I've done a weird thing here, right? I don't use OBS to stream. I use the Twitch Studio basic program so far because I'm still pretty new to this and I'm figuring it out. And it's working just fine for me, and I'm always one of those people who's like, if it ain't broke, I'm not going to fix it. So, but I've tried to install some Streamlabs stuff, and I don't know, I know some of it just doesn't work with the interface, right? And some of it does, and I want to know what's working. Sable, I have questions about toy soldiers. Okay, that's cool. I'm happy to answer questions about my work too. You're talking about our Pathfinder campaign, which is based in the world I'm currently writing, right? The one that we were streaming the other night. Because I don't think I had a chance to answer all of your questions there. Sure, ask away. Yeah, no problem. What was I talking about? Yes. Okay, so I've installed the gift chest thing. And what that should be doing is that it should be giving you points for watching and also for clicking on the chest graphic when it appears in the chat, right? Like those of you who do the World Anvil and other Twitch streams are familiar with. So let me know if it's working, because I don't know if it's working. Nobody has told me yet, right? And I can't see it on my own stream. So, okay. So in your world, toy soldiers, how does magic affect gunpowder? Asks Trended Hero. Why is gunpowder being developed compared to magically enchanted weapons? All right, I actually have a good reason for that. Some people are better at magic than others, right? The elves are a very magical culture, and they have used magic for a long time, right? They have thousands of years in their generations to develop more of a, like they have time to develop magic and become really good at it, and their culture has secrets that it keeps that are magical skills, right? How magic works in my universe is kind of complicated, and I've got to do a bit of an overhaul as I'm writing, because when I started writing the book, it started as D&D fan fiction, right? And so a lot of the magic worked like Dungeons and Dragons magic, which doesn't really make any sense in terms of like a writing, like a system of magic. So I've been rethinking it, and how I've rethought it is that it's a matter of influencing probabilities and matter, right? And it works sort of under the same principle that Erts work in my world, right? Erts being the magical currents of energy that make starfaring possible, right? I wrote an article about it. Hopefully I have remembered the address of the article, the URL. I will give it a try. But if not, then you can find it on the site there. If this doesn't go anywhere, because I'm guessing, right? But if that doesn't go anywhere, then just go to the Toy Soldier Saga main menu and go to Astrophysics and Metaphysics, and it should be the first article underneath it, right? But basically, time, space, gravity, and magic are all manifestations of a similar force, the force of possibility, right? Traveling through space involves manipulating those forces, and so does magic, right? But you have to train your will, and it helps to use foci to make the magic work. And because I'm drawing from a lot of Norse and Celtic culture, although it's not identical to, it's not like a historical fantasy, I'm just using elements from there, and I'm saying that, you know, in my universe, this is my elves and orcs understandings of the way these myths work. But basically, they use runes and ogum, you may have seen that term, right, as tools, also some material components, wands, foci, things to help focus their will, right? You're either born with the ability to do it or you're not, right? You can't just suddenly do it, right? You either have to have talent or you don't, but you may or may not choose to develop it from there, right? Thank you. Yes. Aaron corrected it for me. I forgot it has the A for article in there, right? Okay. So, it's, right. So, ultimately, you don't really need these things, right? It's just ways to help the mage develop their will. Elves have more natural magical talent than orcs do in general. So they have a lot more magical talent than a lot of other peoples do, right? So they found it easiest to get farthest in space first. But other peoples quickly find ways to adapt. Gnomes are also very magical, but their magic tends to work in a kind of a techno-mage kind of way, and that's how they understand magic, and so they make use of that, right, to get into space. And the goblins are the same. One or the other of them, they both claim credit, invented the spin dizzy, which is the non-magical, like that's a techno-magic form of a starfaring engine. Elves did not do that. Elves used trees of life, which had seeds, star seeds, that have natural abilities to navigate the airs, and that is how they got to space. So orcs have been traditionally a disadvantaged culture, and they're not very good at magic compared to some others. But what they are good at doing is like working together and being stubborn as hell, right? Kind of like dwarves. So they sort of have an industrial revolution, and they develop gunpowder based weapons, when previously people have just been satisfied with enchanting medieval technology siege weapons to work in space with some minor design adjustments, right? So they had to develop a technology to compete with the elves, and so they're the ones who have really developed the use of cannons. Other Fomorian species have done that too. Like they were, in large part, it's the goblins who led the charge on the technological development of that, because they were working with the orcs, right? And down with those lying dog-faced pony soldier gnomes, says Aaron, who likes to play a lot of goblins. So that is why. The goblins are kind of his brainchild in my world. I really like how they work. So, okay, so yeah, so that's the reason why they're developing the technology. And the thing is, with the way the technology has developed, magic and technology are not separate per se. They're more separate understandings of how things work in the universe, right? Like, it's a quantum physics is weird. And the way it works sometimes seems like pure magic to people, like who don't really study quantum physics. And I am a layman trying to understand, but it feels very magical to me. So I don't think they're separate, but they're separate methods of approach and understanding. And since you have to train your will to understand things, these are the different ways in which this is looked at, right? So anyway, the canons eventually, and this is a bit of a spoiler because this arms race thing is kind of a central plot point, but they do far more damage than the enchanted weaponry that the elves have been using, and they have to adapt. But they adapt in their own way, and they develop a weapon that utilizes their own magical principles to compete with the cannons, right? So that's how that works in my world. They're not separate, but they might be viewed as separate matters of approach. Making gunpowder is alchemy, right? So it's not unrelated. Trended Hero says, I'm struggling for my world right now because I'm trying to make a world that works with both magic and guns while keeping a consistency. Yeah, I hear you. The thing about magic, if you're going to make it work with technology, and some people are a lot more rigid about this than me, right? So understand that I am in favor of soft magic systems. I mean, hard magic systems are cool too, right? But I don't think magic I don't think the laws of physics are that ground in alternate universe, right? So but it has to seem consistent, right? So it's more a matter of consider the effects of what the magic you have would do. I make magic pretty rare, right? And I make because it's a talent you're either born with or you're not. And it sounds like it's pretty common because you deal with a lot of magical people in my world. But you'll find out in a later book, because I will be getting into what other people do besides the elves, the orcs, the goblins, right? That it's not very common, right? So regular people must take a technological approach. It's just that elves live a really long time, so the few mages that they do have tend to be around longer. So they have the luxury of basing a lot of their development on magic, and magic can't really do anything that you can't accomplish with technology except for transformational stuff, which you could do if you could manipulate the atoms with technology, which is a little bit beyond the science of my universe yet. But it's so because it's not common, it doesn't, and it's not, really common among other peoples, right? It doesn't change a huge amount of things. It changes a few, right? Obviously they're in space in flying wooden ships, right? So that's a thing, right? But and daily life is probably a little better for the average person than it would be in a world where magic does not exist. Life is not as hard in my universe as it would have been in the Napoleonic Wars for the average person, right? So it's a matter of thinking about what kind of effect it would have on the world around you. In my idea right now, he says, is the thinking that magic acts as a trigger for things, that magic is used to change how things work. That's a cool approach. I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense. I remember you were saying that you were thinking of using a mana system, right? Where people have to put energy into things in order to make them work. I think that's a great idea too. And what's cool about that is that it gives your magic some limits, right? Because I don't imagine human beings run around with unlimited amounts of magic any more than they have unlimited amounts of energy, right? So you could exhaust yourself, I imagine, and make yourself very sick if you overdo it, and that would be a wonderful check and balance, right? He says, as I mentioned before, humans don't shoot fireballs, they push mana into guns, and it fires explosive bullets or pushes it into blades and makes them ignite. Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I'm leaning that way myself. I've got a couple of scenes where I've still got more traditional D&D type magic, and I am planning to rewrite it. I'm thinking of that too, right? Like, in order to channel energy, you would need a wand, right? And stuff like that. So yeah, obviously, if since I'm doing a similar idea, clearly I think you're brilliant, and you should do that. Because we all think the people who think like us are geniuses, right? Yeah, yeah. So. No, I think that's great. The idea of this, he goes on to say, is that the clothing or weapons or anything they use as a focus. Babakis says, I am also doing a D&D fanfic novel. That's cool. There are lots of really important writers out there who started with fan fiction. This is my baby. This is my project. I started my first NaNoWriMo 10 years ago with the first novel in the series, and it was D&D fanfic. And now this is the third novel in the series that I am currently doing the manuscript for, and I've rewritten a lot of the world so that it is not D&D fanfiction anymore, because I would like to publish it. I think I have a story that's worth telling here. Right? And so I've rethought, it's given me an opportunity to rethink a lot of the way that things work in Dungeons and Dragons that make sense in a role-playing game, but don't necessarily in a novel. And so I have taken a different approach to the universe. That's where this Eric's concept comes from. Babaka says, but I only have one magic user, so I don't have to explain the magic system at all. What a wonderful cheat! Congratulations! Good for you! I think that's marvelous. Yes, always cheat when you can. Trended Hero says, one of my friends even recommended that this changes things as well as it means that someone can put magic into their gloves and maybe electrocute someone that way. But it means the magic is very much contact until guns or crossbows came. That is actually a really interesting thought, right? If you want to put a limit on that, you might think that if someone has charged gloves with electricity so that they can shake hands with someone and electrocute them, right? How long does the charge last? Batteries won't hold a charge forever. Maybe things do not hold mana charges forever. Maybe it leaks and wears out unless it's recharged. So that might be something you might want to consider. I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying if you're looking for ways to put limitations on your magic so that it doesn't make your world completely different from the historical period that I know you're basing it in, right? These are good ways to limit it. Right? But there's no reason why I think that would screw up your time period. The truth is that the period you've chosen is very modern, and I don't think that you can go wrong with doing anything that stretches technology just a little. So it's cool. I'm looking forward to reading this, by the way. I'm very excited about it. You've told me so much, and it so sounds like my thing. Trended Hero says he also recommended that because of this, mana burns can occur because mana has to flow through the hands to the object, and so the hands can become scarred or harmed from too much mana use. You could take that approach. You could take it like we are conducting or becoming a battery of the energy. And yes, it could damage you. Let me tell you something. Actually, okay, so you know I'm a Wiccan. I've talked about that before. There are different theories. Wiccans do believe in magic to a certain degree, right? And it's like that. We think it's bending probabilities, right? But it must obey the laws of physics as well, right? So, there's nobody throwing fireballs, right? But you might do a spell to get money, right? And then you'll find $20 lying on the sidewalk, or suddenly you might get a raise, or maybe an uncle you didn't know you had died and sent you a bunch of money. You know, like you got a bunch of money in the will. I don't know, like different things like that will happen, right? And we believe that it takes the path of least resistance to do that, right? So the more opportunity you give it to work, the better off it will be. As I pointed out once in a magical class, because remember my first book was a how-to on witchcraft, right? I said that if you actually go out and look for work, if you're doing a spell to get a job, you will find it more quickly. You know, you're giving it opportunities to work. Okay, that being said, things like Reiki, right? A belief of being able to channel energy either from yourself or somewhere else, right? And we believe, people who work in that field, that sometimes you can get feedback, right? And that is from not being an effective conductor, right? And it's things like when you're, you know, unless you take, this is why there's all this cleansing stuff and clearing the aura and all that sort of thing, because otherwise negative energy feeds back, right? Negative energy being the energy of whatever it is you're trying to heal, right? Say somebody's got like an old knee injury and you're trying to heal the knee injury. If you're not careful to clear out things afterwards, it can feed back. And then they believe that you can get sick, right? And usually it's chronic things, right? Things like arthritis, right? Or, you know, you get like a sympathetic pain in your own knee, right? Stuff like that. Chronic conditions, usually, right? And that in part leads to the whole stereotype or myth of the wounded healer, right? So that's something that you might want to consider using, right? Just throwing that out there in case it's of any help to you. Babika says basically she's used Dimension Door, Charm Person, Dream, Mage Hand, Message, and Sending. Fair enough. I think I've used all of that too, or pretty close to. If you're not really inside her head, then no, you don't have to explain how it works. And if you're writing more of an action-based lit RPG style of book, then you don't have to explain how it works either, because people understand RPGs. We know how they work, and you know, if you're writing for that audience, no, you don't have to explain, right? So that's cool. Yeah. Yeah. Message and sending are actually quite important to my story. So it's a good thing there's such a thing as quantum computing. Otherwise, I would really have to explain it. Any more comments, questions, or thoughts about writing at this time? Because I ended up talking quite a bit there. See, this is your fault there, Tyranid Hero. You got me talking about my book. So, writers can always talk your ear off about their book, right? You should consider Dream as well, says Bobicus. Actually, that's a good idea, because that one is easily explained in existing myth, right? There are a lot of stories about how shamanism works through dreaming and altered states of consciousness, and so it's easy to explain and give it a feel like it could be plausible, because real life people will tell you about it, right? Oh, you're talking about the illusion, right? Sorry, the higher level spell, Dream, right? Bobica says, can kill a commoner if you choose a nightmare. Yeah, yeah. Dream being the high powered level that can actually take reality, stuff like The Ring or Nightmare on Elm Street, right? Yeah, that's a scary spell. Far scarier than people give it credit for in role playing games. Good stuff. Yeah. Yep. I should totally, actually. Actually, okay, you know what? That's giving me an idea. I just might steal whole hog. Because that's like, All right. Let's do another writing sprint, shall we? Because I want to get some more writing done. Unless there's more questions, which is fine. Babaka says, surprisingly, scry hasn't come up. Are you talking about that in your own story or in mine? Because that's true. I have thought about scrying because that's a thing, right? But I have in your story. Okay. Yeah, in my story I have a MacGuffin. So because I thought about that and I'm like, we need to beat that, right? Because, this is a spy story. If you have scrying, you'll get defeated right away. So I needed to short circuit that. So I came up with an excuse. Basically, it's a magical tattoo that prevents it. So, yeah. And actually, then that becomes fun later on because you can also use that negatively, right? Because nobody can scry you, so not even friendly people can scry you. Okay, raising the stakes. Yeah, so your magic user has not used scrying yet. Well, scrying comes with a certain degree of risk if you're using the D&D model, right? People might sense it. And then like if the bad guy is sensing it, right, then they're alerted that someone's looking for them and maybe they don't want to alert the bad guy that they're looking for them, right? So that's a good reason to avoid scrying. We examined a lot of that in the game that a lot of this is based on because our characters were spies, right? And they're rogues, right? So with magic to supplement, right? But in some cases, high level D&D spells can completely subvert the efforts of even your most skilled spying rogues. So you have to find ways to circumvent those things, right? But sometimes using magic draws more attention, right? So it may not be of benefit to use it. The magic user is kind of the bad guy, but not the antagonist entirely. It's weird, says Babacus. Okay, that's fun. They're a complication. All right, fair enough. They're not on the character sides, but they're not on the bad guy side either. They're kind of in it for themselves. Fair enough. Well, I'm guessing. Hello, Sakaj. I don't believe we've met. Welcome to the stream. We're just kind of in an answering writing questions section, and we're probably going to start a word sprint here pretty quickly. But welcome. Glad you could join me. If you have any questions about writing related to the writing process, want to discuss a topic, then feel free. Now is the time. Aha, you are one of the Twitch writer people. Good, good. Because Sakaj says hello to Babacus. Babacus says the story is mostly about Sybil's descent into a cult dedicated to worshipping an evil god. Right. Hey, jokes, he says. Aha, jokes backwards. Gotcha. Cool. Cool. I like that. That's clever. That's neat. So, we were discussing ways to come up with fantasy names in the last stream. There's one. Put things backwards, see how it sounds. That's fun. Good for you. Clever. I like it. All right, so jokes it is then, you would prefer? Yeah. Okay, so easier to say in English at least. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Sekoje is a bit harsh. Would that be it? Sekoje? Or Sekoje? Yeah. It's fine. Either way, tell me what you prefer and I'll be happy to do it. And if I screwed up, let me know. So. Sakaj versus Sequoia, probably. Jokes is fine? Okay, I'll stick with jokes. That's cool. It's great. All right, so back to what Babacus was saying. The story is mostly about Sybil's descent into a cult dedicated to worshipping an evil god. Okay, and is the conflict that Sybil is getting kind of brainwashed by the cult? Or is the conflict that she's looking to destroy the cult? Or is, and like, you know, I don't really know because I'm only getting bits and pieces of your story when I watch your stream. So, yeah. Joke says, yeah, it's more Sequoia if Scandinavians say it. Yeah, yeah, that's true. Sequoia, yeah, Sequoia, Sequoia, they'd probably say, right? Yeah. Ah, that's the character arc, not the conflict, says Bobicus. Cool. Okay. Neat. So, okay, I'm not going to ask you more questions because there's no way you can answer the question that came to my mind without a spoiler. The conflict is Sybil versus the world, says Bobicus. Well, that answered my question. Dark fantasy, grimdark, are we writing? Cool. Fair enough. You know, not every story has a happy ending. Oh, right. Yeah, she's the opposition to the characters. Thank you for the follow, Jokes. That's really nice of you. Awesome. I appreciate the support. I'm like, what? I think only a couple followers away from affiliate now. That's really cool. Bobicus says, maybe she gets out in the end. I haven't decided. I love that. See, that's the way I write. I never really know how the story's going to end until I have written the end. I have a series of landmarks that I want to get to. They start with scenes that come to me or that, I think are really worth writing. And then I kind of draw the map from there. And sometimes it doesn't go that way. Sometimes I end up going around mountains and things do not end up the way I expect them to. For instance, in the original incarnation of this story, my character was supposed to fall in love with someone else, Shondar, and he did not. He fell in love with an entirely different character. And but I realized that was what made sense for the characters, so I had to do a major rewrite. And it was fine. That's okay. Joke says, I just start with a basic seed. Okay, I did say that, right? And no idea what's going in it or what is doing. Yeah, endings are hard. That's cool, right? Yeah, and a basic seed and no idea what's on it. Yeah, okay. That's cool. You know what? Pantsers versus plotters, right? I am not a plotter. I was discussing how I am incapable of giving anyone advice about outlines because I cannot do them. But I usually have a series of landmarks, so I kind of describe myself as a planter, right? And sometimes I get lost in the woods, right? Like the reason why novels take me a while is because I get stumped. I write a bunch of different novels at the same time, and I will often come back to one that I haven't picked up in years and finish it because I got lost in the middle of it and I couldn't figure out what I was doing next. And that's, that's an occupational hazard of a pantser writer, someone who does it by intuition. But you know what? Wonderful. I've had opportunities to compare the different styles from masters of them, right? Because I took James Patterson's master class on writing, and when he was the only writer that, the only class they were offering on that platform, and he spends more time on his outline than he does on his book. He has the whole thing plotted by the time he first starts writing the actual novel. So I could not do half his class because I just could not do it, right? I just can't make myself think that way. It's not the way my brain works. And Stephen King wrote a couple of really good books on writing. One was kind of unintentionally on writing. It was Danse Macabre, and it was his examination of horror as a genre, right? And I read that when I was 10 and realized this is what I wanted to do. And it was kind of an accident because it was Stephen King. It was in the paperbacks. I thought it was a Stephen King novel. I was reading Stephen King novels, and instead I found a book that kind of defined my life. So that was really cool. And then later on, of course, his classic book on writing, which people use in writing classes now. And he discusses about how you know, he believes you gotta have room for the story to take its own form. And eventually it will tell you how it is going to end. And you never know until you get there. So, and that's closer to how I work. Nothing wrong with that, in other words. But you do have to finish it, though. That's the thing. Oh, I had a book in. Okay. Yeah, Joke says, oh, you had a book in SPFBO. How did that go? I didn't do very well, actually. But that's okay. Thanks for asking. I think it's because it was a novelette that I entered, and you know, people want bigger books. I imagine that if I entered the full version, now that I have taken that, the book I entered, okay, I hope I'm talking about the right thing here, because I'm terrible with names of things. But you're talking about the contest where, like, it's you enter your book and people vote, right? That's the one that you're talking about. If I am right about that, and if that is the one you were talking about, right, the fantasy, like, science fiction contest, big blog, it's a huge event. Yeah, I think, yeah, the more, okay, I am, okay, good, I am right. Okay, yeah, the Mark Lawrence blog off thingy, yes. I made it kind of about halfway, right? And it's because I entered my novelette, which was called Showdown, which was the start of my Weird West Chronicles series, right? And I was serializing the novel in pieces, right? I think now, if I entered the whole book, it might do better, right? Because I've completed 6 stories and I published them as a novel because they're a complete story arc. I'll show you. It was a successful Kickstarter project. Right, and you can still hear me even though I can't hear the music, so, but, oh, tying up damn headphones in the chair. Yeah. Yeah, here it is. Right. That's the completed novel. Now, this is the hardcover version. There's also a paperback version. And thank you so much to my patrons and Kickstarter backers for making that happen. But I imagine now if I entered that, I would do better. I asked On Spec magazine, which is a significant Canadian science fiction fantasy magazine, to review it. And I got an excellent review. And I had an opportunity to meet the person who does their reviews at the When Words Collide conference in Calgary last year. And she came up to me and told me that she loved it. So I also got the best ever rejection letter in history from this book. Let me tell you about it, right? I was seeing that Dreamforge magazine, which is an excellent science fiction fantasy magazine that tries to keep like a positive hope punk kind of attitude in their writing or in what they publish, right, was toying with the idea of doing serialized novels, right? And I thought, well, you know, hey, maybe they'd be willing to serialize this. So I submitted it, right? And I submitted the first part, the novelette that I'd originally submitted to the blog off. Excuse me. And he said, you know what? This is great. And I love it. And I just can't do a serialization right yet. But I am going out and I bought your book. So, you know, you can't get a better rejection letter than that, right? So I was very proud of that. Right. I like telling that story. I think it's lots of fun. So, okay. Joke says, I've got quite a few of my reads from there. Good, that's awesome. Hardcover, nice. Yes, I love hardcover. It was worth it. I went with Ingram Spark, and that is why I was able to do hardcover. They don't sell nearly as well as the paperbacks, but I love the option, right? And Joke says, a sale, smile. Yes, a sale is always good, right? So, That's really cool. What did you write? Do you have a link to it? I would love to check it out. Oh, and if you're currently in the competition, let me know, because I'll check it out and I'll vote. Nothing I've shown anyone? Not good enough yet? Oh, okay, I see. I misunderstood what you meant by reads. I thought you meant people were reading your stuff, and I'm like, oh, good, share. Right? You know? But you mean stuff that you like to read. Cool. Okay, that's great. And you don't know that. You don't know that you're not good enough yet. Yeah. You know what? I'll do what I've been doing, and I've usually been doing it about this time in the stream, and that is I will post an invite to my Discord server. I'll put it to the critique channel particularly, right? And if anybody would care to join, you know what? I'm going to specifically invite a couple people to my server. But all right, there's the invite. We have a critique channel, and you know, we share our work, we give suggestions. It's meant to be friendly and supportive, so you know, don't be shy, right? And speaking of which, if you guys are on my critique channel, one of our members, a transhumanist Viking, right, was looking for some critique on their work, her work, and she would like to, you know, I don't think anybody's responded to her yet, and I just haven't had an opportunity, right? But she's a really good writer. I patron her, right? So I recommend it as a read. It'll be one of the pinned messages in the channel. So yeah, yeah, if you're interested in sharing and looking for advice and, you know, support and all that kind of thing, it's a good place to do that. So alrighty. So, are there any more questions or comments at this time, or should we do some more writing? Babica says, I'll give that a shot. I need to get better at critique. Cool. Well, we'd love to have you. Awesome. Yeah. Critique is really important. If for no better reason than you realize what you aren't saying. Right? You don't always know what you're not getting across, right? And you need to be able to do that. Or sometimes you're making your character sound like a douchebag when that's not what you intended, right? So, or maybe it is. Sometimes it's good to have your character be a little bit of a douchebag. They need flaws so that they are believable and relatable, right? Just not too many. Joke says, thanks for the link. Well, you're welcome. Well, I hope it helps. And I'm glad you came. This is kind of, I'm very much here for newer writers. That's what I'm hoping to do. Nano really helped me find my voice. It's something I wanted to do for years. I lacked the confidence to show things to other people myself, other than a couple of friends. It's hard to believe that you could be like one of these people that, because I read a lot, and I admire and I look up to these people, and you think, oh, they're so good, I'll never be that good, right? And your friends always tell you you're awesome, but they're your friends, right? So it's really good to kind of make other writer and editor friends so that they can be honest with you, so that you can, you know, fix your messy hair before you go out in public, right? Because they're there to help, right? And nobody is perfect. Everybody's first draft is garbage, absolute utter crap, right? So, you know, you gotta polish the gem, right? So don't be shy, right? I'm sure you're better than you think you are. If you are making some newbie writer mistakes, I will probably point them out because I have had them pointed out to me. And if you're serious about this, I want to help you get your stuff out there and get published because, or publish yourself, right? And you can do it. Still, Joke says, still not shown my stuff to anyone human yet. I also only started reading in my 30s. Are you talking about reading like novels for enjoyment and stuff? Because that's not uncommon, right? Not these days, but a lot of us we get more than we think we do from video games and, you know, reading stuff on the internet, right? So it's it's a slightly different medium, but it's still a thing. So, I you might be underselling yourself there. If you are joining the server there, Jokes, you should hit up Siobhan, the writer. She is a friend of mine. This year, she started her new, like, personal friend, as in I know her in real life, right? She started her first ever novel, this NaNoWriMo, this last one in November. And, it's good, right? Like, she's making a lot of newbie writer mistakes too, but because she's showing it to people, we're helping her with that, right? And ultimately, her story is good. And ultimately, telling the story is the important thing, right? Nothing is as important as a good story. You can fix grammar, you can fix spelling, you can learn certain writing techniques and figure out how to do them, but you can't fix a bad story. So, you know, the point is, she will probably be of great help to you. And because now she's had some intense writing coaching over the past several months, right? So, and that'll give her an opportunity to pay forward, which I'm sure she would really enjoy. And then, work from there. But share it with everybody too. I'm just saying that hit her up in particular. So, okay. If there aren't any more questions, we've got about half an hour officially left in the stream. It's actually going to go for another 40 minutes because I was about 10 minutes late. But I think that it's time to get some writing done. What do you guys think? Jokes, I don't know if you know what a word sprint is, but I will explain it just in case you don't, right? It's when you set a timer and you write as much as you possibly can during that time, and you don't worry over much about editing or, research or any of those things. You just make little notes to yourself. You come back to it later. The point is just to get the words down and get the story moving, right? So, and then at the end, if you want, you share your totals of how many words you managed to get down so that people can encourage you, right? Or so that you can engage in friendly competition. Some people respond really well to that. That was a motivating factor for my friend Siobhan, speaking of her, by the way, because she decided, unbeknownst to me, right, that she was going to beat whatever I had done for the day. And that was going to be her goal for National Novel Writing Month. And her logic was that if she could do that, she would certainly succeed. I was constantly impressed by how she was constantly beating my totals, right? And she didn't tell me she was competing with me, right? Which is actually fine because I prefer a more friendly, mutual encouragement kind of competition, right? But she was being competitive, right? And it worked for her. And she did great. She finished like the day before I did, right? And I finished in a personal record time this year, right? I think having her doing so well encouraged me to do better. And it became a kind of self-feeding cycle, right? So, you know. So I tell her we're on again this year, because that obviously was a formula that worked very well for both of us. And it just gives me so much joy to see her doing so well. Okay, so let's do, I figure, half an hour this time, if that's okay. All right. I'm just going to put that in the chat, just in case somebody comes along while we're writing and goes, what is this? Why is everyone so quiet? Hello, Sap and Stars. Thank you for the follow. Welcome. We're just about to start a half-hour word sprint, if you're just joining us. But if you have any questions about writing or anything that you'd like to comment on, then, you know, feel free to get it in now or type it in the chat. And that'd be awesome. But there'll still be more at the end of the writing sprint, so. Oh. Sap and Stars says, hello, thank you. I come from World Anvil to observe. I'm eager to see your process. Okay, cool. You'll see me making this face a lot, apparently, but that's fine. No problem. I have my, you know, Word document that I'm working on. Will be in the main window, and then I'll be a little face in the corner. Right? And I actually don't pay any attention to the video while I am writing, so yeah, you'll get to see my process all right. I can't wait. Cool. Cool. All right. Started at by my clock. All right, so putting that in the chat so people know what we're doing. And we begin. about halfway through the sprint. that's time. Well, I was in a zone there. I felt pretty good about that. I hope you guys did well. General Google Loss says, hello. Hello, welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining us. Sap and Stars says, that was fun to watch. I need to learn that kind of focus. Well, that's one of the reasons why you do word sprints, right? Because then it enables you to focus for, the time that you're actually working on it, right? Because nobody can focus that strongly for, an unlimited length of time, right? So, oh wow, did I ever do a lot? Is that right? Yes, it is. Okay. Wow. Wait, no. Ha ha ha. I didn't do as well as I thought. Okay, there's my last asterisk. Well, I felt good. I felt like I was on a roll. 544 words is my total. Was anybody else writing? How did you guys do? 2 pages is great. Yeah, thank you. I thought I was pretty happy with it. Right? Or did you do 2 pages? Because yeah, I am pretty happy with that. That's good work for me. I'm feeling the story. I've been wanting to write this part. Right, you were watching, seeing my brain work and my mouth and face. I smashed out a paragraph this morning, says Sap and Stars. Well, great, cool. That's a paragraph you didn't have before, right? I do a class which I teach at the Rambo Academy for Wayward Writers, where it's an online class. You can take it at your leisure. It's like $9 if you're interested. But I teach a class on how to find time to write in the spaces when you feel like you never have time to write. And a lot of it is like taking writing time in 5-minute chunks. So yeah, good work. Good work. I'm glad you managed to get some writing done. That's excellent. I'm pretty happy with this. This is working towards the climax of this particular novel now, right? And the stakes, I hope, have never been so high, right? My character is in a really difficult spot, and it's about to get worse. So, and it's one of those things, right? When you write about a character for a long time, then you get to really like the character. And you have to, or you can't communicate them effectively to your reader. Your reader has to like them too. And if your reader's going to like them, then you have to, right? And his life is about to get very shitty. And at one part, there's the, I don't want to hurt my little baby, but on the other hand, it's like, you learn to develop, I think, a sadistic sort of DM kind of attitude where it's like, yes, and now we will put things to the test and it will all get exciting. So I got both those things going on because we're about to get, shit's about to get real. So it looked like a proper mess. Yes, you were reading along, were you? Shondar Sunfall is Sap and Star says, yes, I love putting my creations through the ringer. Or like, yes. Yeah, Shondar is an elven spy who has infiltrated the orcs. And quite by accident, he has ended up involved in one of their major families and has found loyalties and real feelings for people there. And he lost contact with his command, and has been there for a very long time. And now there is a threat that is credible to his people that he needs to warn people about. At the same time, there is a lot of there's something going wrong within the ranks, and people in his unit have been attacked and other suspicious things have happened, and he doesn't know what the hell to do, right? And it's about to get worse. So yes, I'm torturing him horribly. Yeah. His spy unit or his orc unit? His spy unit, right? It's a secret. It's like a werewolf program, if you've heard of that, right? Where, you know, you learn how to think and live and act like the enemy, right? And yeah, they're all disappearing, and his reports are not getting where they need to go, and shit like that. Sapin Star says, it sounds really cool. I'd love to read the entire book when it's done. Well, I hope you do. Yeah, I'm that's Sinister. I adore Sinister, they say. Cool. It's I'm serializing it right now on my World Anvil site for my patrons, and I'm offering that to everybody for $1, and I'm trying to put like $1 a month, right? And I'm trying to put up at least, I'm trying to do 1 chapter a week of the series, right? Of which is, this is the 3rd book, right? And which I haven't officially published to book format yet, right? Just, you know, online, right? And to a limited audience, right? And I'm also serializing my Weird West Chronicles, the Once Upon a Time in the Weird West novel, in chapters as well, right? So that is what I'm doing, and yeah, I haven't been successful with putting it up every week because sometimes I'm behind, but usually I get 3 out of the 4 in the month. So, ooh, Weird West is super fun, says Sapin Stars. I agree, and nobody knows what it is unless they're already in it, right? Like, there's a handful of people out there who know, right? And everybody else is, what is that, right? And it feels like you have to sell the genre, right, as well as the story. And why? It's so much fun. There's so many cool things going on. Like, you know, yeah, I love it. I think it's great. It's like, it's a really fun world. I write that totally for me, right? My characters are sort of paladin gunslingers, right? Sapin Star says, I ran into it by accident as like a mini plot in a webcomic when I was tiny, and it stuck with me. There seems to be a lot more of that in graphic novels and comics than it does in, like, you know, in a written book. I mean, there are, like, you know, just, yeah. Not to imply that comics aren't legitimate books and graphic novels aren't, because they are, right? But, you know, like, you know, standard novel, right? And I don't know why, because it's so cool. They say, yes, that sounds so cool. Well, it's out there. You can read the first novel for free, actually. I am putting the first, it's a novelette. The first part is free. I am serializing it on that site, so you can check it out if you want to. I will put it in the link in the chat. Wow, thank you very much. That's really awesome. Sapin Star says, I feel like it's a very visually distinct genre and can really benefit with the graphics. Very cinematic. I agree. Yeah, and it can be, and it's beautiful. And then they said they just became a patron. Well, thank you so much. That's awesome. I really hope you enjoy it. You'll get to read the rest of this too, actually. I'm serializing book 1 of the Toy Soldier Saga, right? And I'm like still in the early chapters, and it's this is like the early experience of war and how it is that Chandar ended up in this situation in the first place. And it's pretty much ready for publication, that one. I feel like I'm doing my absolute final edit by running it past my patrons and seeing what they have to say. And Sapin Star says, thank you. I'm looking forward to a bunch of reading. Well, awesome. I really hope you enjoy it. I do a lot of things. I do readings. right? That's the primary one for the $1 patrons, but check it out, right? I don't know what level you subscribed at, but there's lots of different things, and I hope you have fun. Yay! Thanks for joining. That's awesome. Oh, I'm very excited now. Cool. Yeah. Okay, do we have any more questions about writing or about anything related, world building, genre fiction, I don't know, whatever, before we call this a day? Sap and Stars asks, how long do I spend naming things? Names are tough, aren't they? Okay, so let's see if I can share some of my secrets. Okay. Okay, good. Clarification's good. Sap and Star says, I noticed a lot of R male names, so it seemed like there was thought put into it. Yes, I do have language rules for my different languages, right? Orcish has its own rules, and Elvish has its own rules. And there are places where they overlap, but they are consistent, right? Bobica says fantasy name generator or go home. Actually, fantasy name generator is a very useful resource, and I have used it in the past. But because I have created my own rules for how this works, and I'll tell you honestly what I did, right? For those of you who are familiar, there was an issue of Dragon magazine that dealt with name generators, right? And so this is I basically borrowed that, right? Only I rearranged it so that things would not turn out in quite the same way. I established different rules, and this one I kind of pulled out of my ass, right? Like Yathar you could have gotten from that generator, but Shandar you could not have. Shandar would have had to have been a combination of something that was the Drow name generator as well as the Elvish name generator, and only with some shoehorning, right? So Sap and Star says I mostly just steal from behindthename.com. That's great. It works, right? Sap and Star says that's a clever idea. I bet I can jury rig something like that up. I bet you can too, and I'm going to show you how. Okay, I might get some interference in the stream here for just a second because I'm going to fire up my Chrome, and when I've done that, I've had problems in the past. But I'm going to show you a site called worldspinner.com. First, I will put the address in the chat. This has an editor. You can create your own worlds, right? It'll help you to spontaneously generate a map, right? Why don't I show you? I'll just capture the screen. Just a sec. Okay. Change capture. World spinner. I'll show you that. Okay. It says it may not work properly. Alright. So this is the screen. Yeah, I see I'm having latency problems. Okay, I won't stay too long. But it helps you generate a map, right? And then it's got tools, right? And one of those tools is called Culture Editor, where you can make up your own cultures, and Name Generator. Am I still with you? Yes. Okay. And why did you not show properly here? That's just slow. Okay. You have to click to see other name generators when you get here. But these are all the name generators that I have created that have their own rules, right? And so you can create your own. And this is different cultures that I've created according to their rules. Let me show you, right? Let's see, because you can use stuff from their cultures, but they have like a rating, 6 different things that they prioritize. if you use their standard rules, right, you can override them. But if you use them, then if you increase one, another decreases because people have limited resources that they can use, right? So they will prioritize different things. Let me show you. All right. So we're dealing with the clan Bloodfist, right? They're orcs. And notice it helps you generate your own heraldry and stuff, which you're free to use, by the way. You can use that, and they don't mind. These are name generators. I liked what they had here. Their orcish names were very cool, and I decided to run with those. But I've created an entirely different thing for the elves, right? And then behavior, that's what I was talking about, different priorities, right? The 6 priorities must total 300 points. So these are the things they value. The Balorian orcs tend to be a very militant culture, right? And strangely enough, with this low priority on agriculture and whatnot, the Bloodfists are actually pretty dedicated to that, strangely, and pretty social as far as their people go, right? And have a fair bit of magic. That's mostly for their priestesses, but they do have it, right? They don't have a lot of technology, but that's what the goblins are for, right? So that's things you can do with it, right? Sap and Stars this says the site would have been so helpful before I made my own janky map. There's some great mapping software out there. I am just lazy, so I like this one, right? And while I need to do that, I just signed up. I think it's a really useful program. I think it's awesome. There's a free version you can use, and it will let you use some of the tools. But I thought, what, $20 a year? I think it's $10 a year actually. I'm paying, and well worth it. Bobicus says, "Oh, if you want maps, I really like Asgar. I have not heard of that one. That's new to me." At GitHub, Asgar GitHub IO. Okay, cool. All right, I will check that out too, and I will put that link in the video when I upload it to YouTube, right? Sap and Stars says, "Where were all of these tools?" I know, right? I used to write without these things too. Sap and Stars goes on to say, "I love goblins." Cool. My hubby, Aaron Ree, will get along very well with you. He's a goblin fan. I love goblins too. I think they're amazing. They're really underappreciated in my opinion. Right? Here, I gotta change my capture back now. So, just a sec. Otherwise, it will screw up when I try to fire up this again. Okay, so that's back to that. Now we'll go to this screen. Right? Okay, so, and I will shut this down so it is not continually eating my memory. But, yeah. Wonderdraft was mine, says Sap and Stars. Wonderdraft was the mapping software that they were using, and cool. I mean, I've seen that. I may try that one sometime, right? It looks like it's fairly intuitive. It's just that I already have a limited use of time, right? So I dislike having to teach myself to learn any new software because it's so time consuming, right? So if I'm going to do that, I want to know that I'm going to need it, right? And that it will be a good time investment. And Wonderdraft looks promising, right? It looks like it's fairly intuitive and good for, lazy people like me who don't particularly care about being the world's greatest map artist. They just want a map that works, right? And they look nice. They're very nice looking maps, right? Sap and Star says, "Fun and good software, but oi, I suck at graphic design." I am not the world's best graphic designer either. No, that's a different art, I have learned. An artist is not necessarily a cover designer. You know what I'm saying? Right? Graphic design is really its own thing, right? They are totally understandable. I just had to make something to my D&D games. Yeah, me too. I used to do the old-fashioned, get a piece of newsprint, roll it out, and start drawing with pencil crayons the parts that people were actually going to visit. Right? So I just realized that I have an aesthetic that appreciates that, and I like that look in my generated maps too. So, because I just visualized what my first big world map looked like. Yeah. Yeah, make something for your D&D games. Yeah. Yeah, that's where I got started too. Yeah. And sometimes you need a map for writing, and sometimes you don't. Right? Sometimes it's just not necessary. It's often very helpful if you're writing in fantastic fiction, though, because, then people get a picture of how things work. Yeah. Absolutely, says Sap and Stars. It helps me remember what I even named things. I know I'm so terrible with that. This is why I like World Anvil, because I can start to keep track of stuff like that. Because I am terrible. I see. Yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll show you. Okay, where is it here? It's not that far back. There is a character. And I like this character, but he's like a supporting character. That's not it. Damn it. He's there. Okay? He's their nautical navy admiral. I do not remember what I named him, so I put XX here. I will look it up later in the edit, and I will fill in that XX to, give his proper name. I like the character. I can visualize him in my head. You think I can remember what the fucking hell his name is? No, I have no idea. Okay. Downtime again. There we go. Okay, so I think that it is now 4:30, and my voice is running out because, I've got a bit of a cold or something that I'm fighting off. And so, or it could be allergies, but it feels more like a bit of a cold. So I think I'm going to go. And thank you very much for joining me, and welcome aboard to the Patreon, Sap and Stars. I hope you really enjoy it. There's a link to my Discord there. You get special privileges on the server as a patron. And I look forward to talking to you more. It's going to be fun. And thank you everyone who joined me for the stream today. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate the support and the communication, right? That's, and the encouragement. That's really, it's good for me. I hope it's good for you guys too, right? I hope we're building a little community here, connected to the greater community. It's cool. So, okay. And, I will be back sometime this weekend, I hope, with Sable's World Forge, which is where I do World Anvil world building specifically. I have not done it for I did one, and then I didn't do it for a couple of weeks. I had a very busy weekend. There was a lot going on. I'm still recovering. I'm tired. It involved an emergency rush to the ER, but everything is okay now, right? It's just that it's been rough. But we're back. It's just I'm recovered from sleep. That's all. Sap and Star says, take care. Thanks for streaming. And Jokes says, later. Sorry, I lurk a bit. That's fine. You're welcome to lurk. I don't mind. Not everybody has to talk. Introverts are cool and welcome too. Yeah, so, yeah, I'm hoping to do that on the weekend. And then on Monday, for those who haven't heard and who are following Toy Soldiers Old School, we have changed our days to Mondays. We stream on Mondays at 6 p.m. Pacific time. So we had to do that because of people's changed schedules. All right. Have a good day, everyone. Happy writing. Thanks for joining me. It's been awesome.